Sponsorem programu jest Tauron, sprzedawca instalacji fotowoltaicznych.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to Debrecen here in Hungary. A very exciting day ahead as we go racing for the first of 4 rounds in the TAURON Speedway Euro Championship. The race for gold starts here with treble champion Mikkel Mikkelsen defending his title and a host of contenders looking to take over as champion and also secure an automatic place in the 2025 Grand Prix Series. We have lots to look forward to this year with rounds to come at Grosjeans, Gustrov and Hortrov. It all gets underway here in Debrecen, and a reminder that racing starts at 3 p.m. Central European Time. It's the opening round of the TAURON Speedway Euro Championship.
Hello and welcome to 2024 TAURON Speedway Euro Championship Series. We are about to kick off the season here in Debrecen, a beautiful city in Hungary. A city that has never seen a speedway like this, I'm sure. My name is Martin Musial. I'm the host of our Facebook and YouTube studio, and I am joined by wonderful experts and commentators. Gentlemen, I don't know if you noticed, but Hungary is the only nation in Europe when introducing someone. They start with their last name and finish with the first name. So, in honor of a great Magyari nation, here's Ermolenko Sam and Ro David. Hello, guys.
Muzak, hello.
What's your first impression of Debrecen and Hungary?
My first impression is the track is very big, and I was surprised to see how much material was on it. When we arrived yesterday, we went straight to the track and had a look, and they put a lot on it. The weather's very warm. We landed and it was raining, and our drive here, it got brighter and brighter, and today's very warm. So they're going to have to keep a lot of water on the track, and my impressions are very good.
What about the city? I know you saw the city yesterday here.
Yeah, very welcoming place. Lots of people very pleased to see us, pleased to see the event come here. Really looking forward to it. It's been a long 9 months since the end of last season. Great to get going again. Great to see new places. Everyone's looking forward to it.
So, David, who benefits more when Speedway Euro Championship comes to Debrecen? The city itself, because it's been waiting for an event like this, or the series, because it gains a new public, a new city on its roster?
Well, I think the great thing about this series is the variety and the fact that we have 4 rounds every year. We do not go to the same 4 venues every year. We mix it around. We go to different places. That's really good for the series, and obviously it gives the places we go to the incentive to know they could stage a meeting like this. We'll talk later about Speedway in Hungary, which obviously is not quite where we'd like it to be, but this event can really boost them up and hopefully get them up the standings.
We can talk about it now. Sam, I'm sure you remember the great traditions here in Hungary, especially in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Obviously, there's a pretty good crowd here today. There was a sold-out stadium here for a qualifying round for Speedway Euro Championship Challenge. So people here in Hungary are hungry, if you will.
Okay, good fun.
For great Speedway. But what happened? How do you remember it back in the 90s? What do you think of it now?
Well, I've never been to this track, just to clarify that. I've not been here. I've only been to one Hungarian track as a qualifier for the American team, and I wasn't a rider. I was just there to assist the riders at the time. But every time I've been here so far, it's been very welcoming. And the buzz in the pits right now, everybody's comfortable. And, you know, I talked to each one of the riders that I came across, and they said this is a really good racetrack. So if you're going to have an event to have anybody have a chance of winning, this is one of them.
David, when you say boost Speedway here in Hungary, do you mean the audience or do you mean riders? Because right next to us there is a Zoltán Lovaszen. He's a future of Hungarian Speedway, but there's maybe 2 or 3 names except Zoltán. I think there's Richard Fuzesi. What can we do in order to bring back Speedway to Hungary?
Well, it's quite remarkable that this is the only venue now remaining that's staging Speedway in Hungary, and I think I say they only have 4 senior riders, although they are trying it to 250 level to try and bring riders through. So I think bringing an event such as this to the venue and to the country has to be a boost. But they need more venues than just the one, obviously. That's very, very important, because if you only have one venue, you can't have proper league racing, you can't get these riders with regular track time, so it's all a big thing to put together. But hopefully you stage a meeting like this, a successful meeting, hopefully, good racing, get people interested in the sport, very, very important.
I think Norbert Magoshi would disagree. He's a rider here in league meetings for Speedway Wolf Debrecen. I think that's the name of the club here. Sam, you mentioned the track already. Does it remind you of Pardubice from last year, or not at all? Because it's almost 400-meter long track.
Yeah, it's a big track. Pardubice's got really, really wide corners, where this track has fairly long straightaways, not as wide as Pardubice, and the corners widen up. I think a 10-meter spread on the straightaways and 15 meters to 19 meters, I think I read, is on the corners. And there's a little bit of bank. I just think the only relationship really is probably the number of the meters. Yeah. But I think it'll be a different kind of racetrack. Pardubice is one of those ones you got to make a good start. Obviously, there's not a lot of material on it compared to what I've seen here. And I think that's going to play its part. They need to keep the water in the track. It's a very warm day. And the riders, I think, respect the fact that they'll have a grade with water on it now, so they're going to have to think of that when they're out there. I'm more of a racer, so this is a racer's track, and to me this would be very inviting.
Should we expect the velocity of 120 kilometers an hour or above today in the mini?
I think that is very capable, yeah. Yep. I mean, the corner speed was extremely fast when I was watching it. I did watch the end of the sessions when they went out in their groups, and it was a little bit dusty. So I'm thinking they're going to probably have to keep the water down on it, but the speed will be gained by how fast they're going to the corners, definitely.
So what's crucial here in Debrecen? Good starts, probably a good engine as well. The longer the track, the better the engine must be.
When I first looked at the track yesterday, I thought this is going to be a track for a gator. I think they're going to make passing. And after talking to the riders, they told me just the opposite. You can actually build dirt out here, and you can find some big lines. So I'm thinking, okay. So I seen it for the first time yesterday, thinking the opposite of what the riders are telling me. So I think it's going to be a very good racetrack.
One more question in regards to the equipment and to the weather as well. It's really hot. How does it affect the
I did ask that question to a couple of the guys, and one of them, I asked Anders Lebenebs what he thought about the weather, and he's going to have to make a lot of changes to his equipment. And he says, you know what, my engines are built for these kind of conditions, and we probably won't have to make much changes. Only the carburetor jet, we might go a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller, and that range, we call it the main jet, and that's from a 185 right up to a 230, and they got all those choices by steps of 5. So right now I think that's we just got to see which one gets out in front and goes going the quickest.
Obviously Debrecen is the first round of the season, then we move to Grudziądz, Poland, then my favorite track on the calendar, which is Gistrow, Germany, and then we finish at Chorzów, the second greatest stadium in Poland, except Narodowy in Warsaw. That's going to be a great event in September. The calendar is different comparing to last year with Częstochowa, Bydgoszcz, Gistrow, and Pardubice. Let's watch the quick recap of 2023 season, and we'll move on to the lineup of 2024. Plenty of exciting names here in Debrecen as well. Can we watch the clip now? That's my question.
Danish duo Mikkel Mikkelsen and Leon Madsen have dominated the TAURON Speedway Euro Championship in recent years. A run of 5 wins between them over the last 6 seasons, broken only by Robert Lambert's triumph in 2020. Mikkelsen has 3 titles and Madsen has 2. They have been challenged in recent years by Janusz Kowodze, but the veteran Polish rider has been very unlucky with injuries at just the wrong time. There are 4 more Poles who are keen to shine. Patrick Dudek has finished 3rd, 4th and 4th in the last 3 years, whilst Maciej Janowski rejoins the series after 11 years away, and both of those riders are desperate to win back their Grand Prix place. That will also be a target for Piotr Pawlicki, who challenged for this title 3 years ago, and Kasper Wrina is capable of some spectacular racing action. Denmark's Anders Thomsen last rode in the SEC in 2019. Since then, he went on to win a Grand Prix in Gorzów, and fellow countryman Rasmus Jensen provided great entertainment in 2022. Whoever ends up on top, we are in for a thrilling 4 rounds to decide the TAURON Speedway Euro Championship.
Mikkel Mikkelsen, the 3-time European champion. No one in history has ever done it before. Mikkel Mikkelsen. Does he have what he had last year, the consistency to win it this year and make it even bigger with a 4-time European champion day?
I think it's really interesting because obviously he's had a great success winning the Landshut Grand Prix a few weeks ago and made the semi-finals last time out in Prague, so that's going well. But then I look at his form in Poland, it's not as consistent. I think he only scored 4 points last night for Czestochowa, and then you go the other way round to Leon Madsen, who's won the series on 2 occasions, and he is flying in Poland. I think he's 3rd in the extra league averages, but his Grand Prix is not going well. They've both talked in the media about the mental side of Speedway, which I think is really important, and it's good to see them talking about that sort of thing. But it's very hard for me to read, if you're looking at those two, who is going to be actually on top and going into this series in the best form. Mikkelsen's done it 3 times. If he could do it 4 and do it back-to-back, it would be big for him. But I think Madsen will come here with some equipment that he thinks he can be strong with too.
So Mikkelsen, I'm sure you mentioned that, hired a psychologist during the winter. Leon Madsen struggles, he says it openly in interviews with his personal life. He says it affects his racing this season. We can see that in the GP, like you said, 3rd average in Extraliga. And I'll be honest with you, I saw an interview with Leon Madsen 2 days ago, and he says that he's not as motivated for this season due to his personal issues, Sam.
Wow, and it reflects on what's happening on the racetrack in the Grand Prix for sure. Yeah, that surprises me. But then again, you know, we don't know the riders. We're not close enough to the riders to know what might be affecting them. But if they're commenting on their personal issues and it is affecting them, you got to believe in what they say, because he's a much better rider than he is performing in the Grand Prix. But this is a new series, so today it's fresh. And I think every one of the riders out there, especially the 15 that are dedicated to it month in and month out, are going to think they have a good chance.
So let's talk Danish Speedway, but not Leon Madsen, not Mikkelsen. We have new faces here, new old faces here in the Speedway Europe Championship. Anders Thompson, I don't know if you agree, David, one of the most exciting riders to watch with his style of racing and overtaking on the outside.
I am delighted to see him in the series. We've seen him a couple of times before. He's been a bit unlucky with injuries. Of course, he is a Grand Prix winner from Gorzhov a couple of years ago. And I think the really important thing about this series, and a rider like Anders Thompson and Mats Janowski comes into this list too, we will talk about later, this is really important for them to try and get into the Grand Prix. To become European champion is a big thing, and also to get back into the Grand Prix. We've seen the way the Grand Prix has gone, particularly this year, with spreading out the nations, so it's not so easy to get a pick back in. But if you win this series, as Mikkelsen showed, now if Mikkelsen had not won this series last year, he may not have been in the Grand Prix. And now here he is and goes and wins in Germany recently. So that's how important this series is, and I think Anders Thompson will take this very seriously.
That's a great point. What about Rasmus Jensen? Because I personally like him. He's the captain of Holstead Tigers. It's fun to watch him on track. We saw him in the series 2 years ago when he was still on the rise, but I think he's a completely different rider now.
He's a racer, isn't he? He likes throwing it in there. He fears nobody, which is a quality that you need in an event like these. So as long as his bikes are going good and he doesn't get too, let's say, any setbacks as he's going forward, he should be a threat to any one of the racers.
But it's not just Danish riders that we're going to see here in Debrecen and in the 3 remaining rounds during the Speedway European Championship. It's actually 7 nations among 16 riders that we're going to see today and for the next 3 meetings. Let's watch a clip about how the European series is.
The 2024 TAURON Speedway Euro Championship features the 7 nations army of competitors, just showing the variety in this exciting series. Poland have 5 riders taking part, many of whom will feel they can be champion, but amazingly, they still await their first gold in the modern era of SEC. Their best results have been 2nd place overall for Jarek Hampel in 2018 and Janusz Kowodze 2 years ago. This year it's Kowodze, Patrick Dudek, Mats Janowski, Piotr Pawlicki and Kasper Verina who fight for gold. Denmark have been the dominant force in recent years, and with Mikkelsen and Leon Madsen back to continue their battle and joined by Anders Thompson and Rasmus Jensen, will they be back on top again this season? Latvian star Andrzejs Lebedevs is the other former champion in the lineup, and this time round he's joined by Yevgenis Kostigols, who made it through the SEC Challenge. Former runner-up Václav Milik is back to represent the Czech Republic, and we also welcome back Frenchman Dimitri Berger, subject to injury, and Timo Lahti, who last appeared full-time in 2021 and now has a Swedish licence. The 7th nation is Germany, and with Kai Hülkenberg now in the GP, rising star Norik Badorn gets his big chance after appearing as a wild card last season at Gustrov. 7 nations, 15 full-time riders, 4 rounds. Who will win the TAURON Speedway Euro
Seven Nations Army. I really enjoyed that. David, I know you recorded the clip before we learned sad news about Dimitri Berger and Janusz Kołodziej. Obviously, we're not going to see the Frenchman and Janusz Kołodziej. Very unlucky of them to suffer injuries before.
Yeah, big shame. Dimitri Berger looks like he'll be out for, I think, probably the first 2 rounds at least. Maybe he'll be able to come back before the end of the season. And he was doing really well in the second league in Poland this year. And Kołodziej, well, what can we say? I mean, he's won 4 of his last 6 rounds of Speedway Euro Championship, and here we are where we were last year. He missed the first round in Czestochowa, then he was superb for the next 3, so it's a big shame for him. I understand he has a wild card for the individual series in Poland, so he may be back in maybe early July, but I know he practiced in Leszno this week and just decided he could not do it, so clearly he is still injured. It's a big shame for him, but hopefully we'll see him back in round 2.
Sam, can you think of a more unlucky rider in the recent history of Speedway European?
Yeah, he's I really can't. And the fact that he's such a strong force when he's on the track, that he'll be well missed. It would have been nice if he could have started last year in the first round, as this year he's not again. So all in all, it's everybody's loss really, and mainly he'd be really disappointed, I'm sure.
He ended up 3rd with bronze medal despite messing around in Czestochowa. He missed 10 points to Mikkel Mikkelsen. I'm sure he would have scored 10 points in Czestochowa had he been there.
It's amazing because you say that he came 3rd, and of course part of it, so that meeting didn't finish. He couldn't score all the points he could because we only got to heat 16 with the weather. So his consistency over those 2 and 3/4 rounds was very impressive, and hopefully we'll see him back in round 2.
So what about this season, Sam? Let's talk about a lineup. Let's talk about riders. We always say that consistency is the name of the game here at SEC.
You know, I think they can afford to have an average round, but they can't afford to have too many bad rounds. And, you know, the consistency is what was the name of the game on any one of these series. So you got to get out there, and the mix of the tracks are going to be playing on their minds, I think, trying to get it right. You know, this is a track where a lot of riders probably haven't been on, but reading through some of the the reviews from some of the riders that have been here, like Mikkelsen's been here before, and I think Thompson's been here. So there's a few of them that have experience here, and that's probably going to help them. But, you know, we got to go to the likes of Gustro, which is a tricky track, and then when you end up in Horshoff at the end, that's another tricky track because it's a man-made track. So there's a lot of variables. So just the consistency definitely is a big part of it.
I think Sam made that point about Gustro, and that is crucial because last season's championship was won and lost in Gustro. Leon Madsen had a horrendous round, only scored 4 points. That was the difference between him and Mikkel Mikkelsen. So for some, we don't really know why, because he's been so consistent in SEC for many years. He had a terrible round, and that was what won the championship for Mikkelsen.
See, this is why I'm excited about the calendar of 2024 season here, because we get Debrecen, which is a really long track, like we discussed before. Then we have Gustrov, which will verify a completely different set of equipment, different set of skills. And then we have a man-made track at Chorzów, which could be anything, as far as I know. Yeah.
And then you got a conventional Polish track that's in the middle of it.
Gustrov,
which is one of those ones which I don't think is an outright racetrack in some cases. You got to understand how to get around there. So we got a really good mix.
Very narrow and long straights too. But what we often see here, David, is that when a Speedway European Championship arrives in a city, they do the track completely different than what the riders are used to during the league meetings.
And of course, we have seen a couple of the riders in our field today. We're here recently in the World Championship qualifier with Kasper Verina and Andrzej Lebedev getting through to the Grand Prix Challenge, and that was only maybe 3 weeks ago. So they have recent experience, but as you say, will they prepare the track the same as on that day, and indeed when they race here their conventional club meetings? I think we found out yesterday they raced maybe 7 meetings here throughout the season, so there isn't too much racing, but I think track conditions will be something for them all to watch out for.
Does it help, or it's not beneficial at all to come here 3 weeks before the meeting? Like we said, Anders Thompson, Kasper Verna have been here twice this season. Will they use that to their advantage today?
I think, you know, there's a level in a rider's talent. A rider that's maybe not at that grade yet, they can a really good senior rider can probably go to any racetrack and weigh it up on the day and figure out how to get around there. Sometimes their setups need to be adjusted. They might find it a little bit tricky there, but you know, you can definitely say, like the top Grand Prix riders, I think you can put them in here and they know how to ride it. You got Grand Prix riders in this series right now. They'll know how to ride it. It's the ones probably that need that experience a little bit below that probably would get more advantages. So I think there's two sides of that. You'll get more confidence if you've been here before, but then again, you might overthink it when you're here. But if you're used to winning all the time, it doesn't matter where you go.
Speaking of experienced riders on the world stage, Maciej Janowski has made a comeback to Speedway European Series this season.
Yeah.
Due to the fact that he won at Daugavpils, the SEC Challenge. Let's see what has changed since the last time Magic was in Speedway European Championship.
After a gap of 11 years, the man they call Magic is back in the TAURON Speedway Euro Championship. Back in 2013, Maciej Janowski finished joint 5th in the series, 14 points behind the winner Martin Vashlik, his best result coming in the opening round at Gdansk, where he scored 10 and missed out in the last chance race. Magic went on to become one of the best and most consistent riders in World Speedway, with 8 Grand Prix wins to his name, and he finished in the top 6 of the world standings for an incredible 7 successive seasons, finally securing a medal with 3rd place overall in 2022. But after a tough year in 23, the Pole lost his Grand Prix place, and the 32-year-old is now keen to fight for the Speedway Euro Championship title. He won the SEC Challenge at Daugavpils, and now if he can win the main series, that would also mean a return to the GP. Magic is back in the SEC. We are delighted to see him competing. Now, can he put in a real challenge for European gold?
John, your prediction regarding Maciej Janowski this season?
Well, we see Maciej Janowski in the UK because he's come back to ride for Oxford, and he's been finding it very tough, as have a lot of the riders who come back to the UK after a long time away. It's not easy. In the last couple of weeks, he's been starting to score more points. He's a class rider. He was world number 3 2 years ago. He had one poor year in the Grand Prix and lost his place, which is unlucky for him. I think he will come here 11 years on from the last time he was a full-time SEC rider. I think he'll be very determined to have a good season here.
I'm glad you mentioned Oxford and his move back to Great Britain, because he was well known for a couple of years before he stopped racing there. Lots of changes in Maciej Janowski's life, because he also made a move from Dakar Molila to Piraterna Motala. Like we saw before, he's no longer in a GP series. Does it help to switch it up from time to time, Sam, or should he look for some sort of stabilized career?
So just to go back to what I said about a rider with experience at a level that's high, he's got that experience. What he's got to do is regroup there and treat this series as a stepping stone to get back to where he maybe possibly wants to be at the level. So for him to go and show at the SEC Challenge, he meant business there and went there, and that's a big track, and you have to have a really good setup and be very wise about how to ride that kind of conditions and the weather and so forth. So if that's his statement, showing what he wants to do here, then yeah, bring it on, because he's going to come here and probably be one of the riders that does not want to miss out on having a bad one.
I'm having a hard time imagining what's going to happen today with Maciej Janowski, because he's capable of winning the event.
Yep.
But if, like you said before, the gates are crucial, that might be a struggle for Maciej Janowski. We know he's great on track when it comes to overtaking, when it comes to his technique, but not coming out.
So with it saying that, you're looking at some of his inconsistency.
Yeah.
So let's just say he resets.
Yeah.
He can't panic. You know, if he has a bad one, don't give up. Remember I said you can afford to have a mediocre one. Just concentrate on the good ones. You know, this is a track, it's a beginning. There's going to be somebody that's going to be in the middle of the pack, and there's going to be somebody at the top. There's going to be somebody at the bottom. You got to go with the flow. And if Magic beats himself up and has a bad one, that's probably what you're used to seeing. We'll see in a couple of rounds, won't we?
So a Polish rider has never won a Speedway European Championship since it's a series. Obviously, there was Sebastian Ułamek, there was Krzysztof Kasprzak back in the day when it was a one-day event. Do you see a Polish rider winning it this season, David?
Well, obviously the fact that Kawadze isn't involved from the start does make those chances somewhat lesser. I'd have put him right there in with a chance, but I think Janowski will be taking it seriously. So will Pawlicki as well, who is a rider that Sam knows very well indeed. Dudek, who's been third, fourth and fourth for the last 3 years, and again a former Grand Prix rider wanting to get back in. These are quality riders. If they can find the consistency to get up with those Danes, then they have every chance, yes.
So David mentioned it already. Piotr Pawlicki joined Birmingham. That's a new job. How are you doing as a manager, Sam?
He's very frustrating at times, because he's very much better than he is performing in the British Premiership. And it's probably more because he's never been on the kind of conditions that he's been faced with. And, man, I'm trying to break him. I'm trying to get him to smile and enjoy it. But he's too serious. I find he has showed me the modern racer. They're so professional. They got everything organized around them. they get to an event, they go get dressed, they do their exercises, they get ready, and they go ride, and they rely on the team behind them. He's a little bit lost without that team, and I don't know if that's the difference or not, but we're trying in Britain to give him the reassurance, and I personally am trying to figure out what's going to help him, and I think we probably got it about now, but it's still early over there.
What is it, Sam? Are you suggesting that he's not having fun while racing?
I think he's probably a little bit too serious. He doesn't expect what he sees sometimes, and when he watches other racers perform on the track, he's thinking, wow, I'm looking in my book now to see what I did last time somewhere. Did I have to make a change now? Overthinking it maybe. The conditions of the materials a little bit different. He's finding that to be a little bit challenging, but you know, the opposite side of that, you got Victor Lampard. You know, he is young and he is
and bold.
Yeah, and he's finding the enjoyment out of it because we're trying to get him to relax a little bit, you know, and Pietro, I'm hoping, is going to come.
So, David, I don't know if you'd agree, but obviously Piotr Pawlicki is 30 years old this year. But back when he started, when he was a junior, he was compared a lot to Bartosz Marslik. They're pretty much the same age. And people in Poland used to say that Piotr Pawlicki was going to make a bigger career than Bartosz Marslik.
Wow.
We don't need to introduce Bartosz Marslik to anyone in the Speedway world. So, is it heavy on the shoulders of a rider that he's not living up to expectations?
Well, I wonder if those expectations were too much. And I remember he came to the UK very early. In fact, his brother, Przemek, came to Coventry, which was my local club. And then Piotr came to ride for Coventry as well. And then rode for Poole and Wolverhampton until around 10 years ago. He's been a Grand Prix rider. He's won a Grand Prix. He's been in the top 6 of the Grand Prix. So he's made that level, but then didn't take that last step up to where Marslik is, which is consistency of making every Grand Prix, almost every Grand Prix final, and being there every time. Why that is the case, I don't know. Whether the pressure was too much, I just don't know. I think the most important thing, and Sam may allude to this, is when you're not having a great day, is to still score points, to not have a disaster.
That's
and
what
that's what
Marslik
does every time.
Yeah.
He doesn't always get 15-point maximum, but he's always there or thereabouts, and he's able to process that in his mind that, okay, it's not going quite right, but we can still make something out of this. And maybe that's where Pawlicki and others don't quite get it right.
Let's put Piotr Pawlicki aside, but I am going to ask you about your manager career.
Okay.
I'm not going to ask you, what do you like the most, racing as a rider, commentating on Speedway Euro Championship, or managing a club, because I know you are going to say commentating on a Speedway Euro Championship. But what's most challenging? What are those 3 roles in Speedway is the most challenging one?
I've been very lucky. I've had experience in all of those and a little bit more outside of that as well. You know what? Every time I do something, I try to do my best with it, with what knowledge I have. Obviously, the team managing is the newest thing I'm doing, and I'm finding that I'm finally just getting a little bit comfortable with it, enough to where I think we can start making some changes, positive ones for the team. Working with you guys is always a pleasure, and we love our journeys coming here, don't we? And doing this stuff and doing the TV side of things. As a rider, I miss it, but I got over that because it's been a long time ago, and I'm enjoying everything that's in front of me. And right now, the team managing and this work is what's there.
Awesome. David, one last Polish rider I'd like to ask you about. Kacper Woryna. We finished the season this year in Chorzów. You do remember what happened in Chorzów in 2019 when we were there last time. He was fighting for that medal, but he lost in the extra hit.
The runoff with Leon Manson and the engine problem in the runoff, and he was going well, and we saw him for a few years have wild cards in that kind of area in Rybnik, and then when he was full-time in the series challenging for the podium. I'd like to see him up challenging once again. He seems to be a rider who always provides plenty of entertainment. In this series, the last couple of times he's been in it, not quite worked out for him, but it's good to see him back in. He got through that runoff in the SEC Challenge, 4 riders in that runoff, and he won that. So good to see him back, and yes, the final round I'm sure is one that he's really looking forward to.
So Kacper Woryna is strongly connected to Chorzów as the region in Poland where he grew up, where he's from. Do you see it happening this year? Kacper Woryna fighting for a medal?
I'd like to think so. I'd like to hope so. I think he's another one who's going to require the consistency, and I'm sure for the series it would be a good thing if he has three strong rounds to start off with, and he's in contention heading to Horshoff. That will certainly help the ticket sales for the final round. I remember a few years ago when he was cycling or riding around the street selling tickets. It was very, very good. Yeah. So that's really exciting, and we know that he's in that meeting, which is good, and hopefully yes, he'll be there or thereabouts.
He's a really good person. From the lineup that we see today, probably if I had to pick one rider to go out and grab a beer, that would be Kacper Verena.
And I'll be right behind him.
Sam, we mentioned Piotr Pawlicki, but he also managed Václav Melek, Czech rider. What can you say about Václav? Because we know him pretty well. He won a silver medal, bronze medal. What he's capable of this season?
You know, whenever I had to work with him earlier in the year when he was at the Birmingham camp, you know, he was another rider that came in as one of the top guys and went right down the reserve and still found it hard to score points in Great Britain. But these kind of tracks, you know, he proves that he likes the big tracks. He's got the setup. He's comfortable with them. I asked him today how he feels, and he says, I feel great. This is a good track. And you got to believe him. But I believe everything he tells me when I'm his manager. But he's got to do it on the track, and that's what he's got to do. He's got to prove it that he can do it. He's a threat. He's a good starter. But I'm kind of losing that opinion these days because I expected him in Great Britain to be a good starter. And only a few occasions he got out in front.
All right, David, let's talk about other nations really briefly. Let's talk Latvian riders. We have 2017 European champion Andrzej Lebediev, but he's joined by Yevgeny Kostekov. That's a surprise.
Yep, so Lebedev's had a good year last year and qualified as of right. He made the top 5 last year, which is great to see because he won it in 2017, then a few years struggling. And, of course, the Grand Prix rider as well, Lebedev this year, and rode well in Prague last weekend, so he's fine. Kostegov, yes, probably the surprise qualifier. Of course, riding at Daugavpils in the challenge will have helped him with that, but you look at the score charts from that meeting, he beat some good riders. If you look at, he beat people like Anders Thompson, Rasmus Jensen in that meeting, so he's earned his place.
But it was his home track.
Indeed, yes. And like I say, that will obviously, riding at Daugavpils will have helped him. Big challenge for him because he's not racing these guys on a regular basis, with just being at Daugavpils in the third tier, effectively, in Poland. So going to be difficult, but he has nothing to lose. He can really go and enjoy it.
We have 2 Swedish riders as well. Jakub Torser, who's replacing Dimitri Berger as the first reserve of the series, and Timo Lahti, who's having a great season so far in Sweden and in Denmark, and he is representing Sweden, not Finland anymore.
Yes. Yep. You know, he's one of those riders that you can never underestimate him. He'll go out there and pull off a good start. It's like Kai Huckenbeck, the same kind of put him in the same kind of category. You never know which one's going to be there, and they'll fight for their points, and they're not scared of anybody, and they'll go out there and win races. It's got to go his way, and if it goes his way, he could easily be on the podium.
And one last name on the lineup, Nick Bledern. Speaking of German riders, Kai Huckenbeck did a fantastic job last year. Maybe not point-wise, but he was putting on a show almost every single round. So what can we expect from a very young and very talented Nick Bledern?
Only 20 years of age. Yeah. Looking forward to seeing him racing in this series. I was talking to him in the pits before. We've seen him in the UK with Bellevue, and he's now really starting to score very good points in that league. And of course, doing this series means that he's not doing SGP2, which their qualifiers are also this weekend. But he thinks it's more important to be in this series, where obviously you can come up the rankings and, you know, maybe in a couple of years' time win it and head into the Grand Prix that way. He is definitely the future of German Speedway. We look at Martin Smolinski over the years, and we've seen Kai Huckenbeck in this series and now in the Grand Prix. Bledorn is the next one on the list, and very young indeed. This is all about experience for him, but I think over the 4 rounds he will have some rides. Whether that's complete meetings, I don't know, but he will have some rides that really make us take notice.
Is that a good step, Sam, for a young rider to go to a senior Speedway European Championship competition instead of SGP2, which is under 21 competition?
I think, you know, there's probably examples out there of similar things. You throw yourself in the deep end and you learn. His education in Great Britain in the Premiership has proved that he's capable of competing with the best on those tracks. Getting on these European tracks is where he's come from. He's going to now probably take his knowledge he's learned from there and fear nobody. And what I like about Norik is he walks around the pits with a smile on his face, you know, and he's positive about his racing. I think he's serious, and I think he wants it to happen, but his asset is making starts. So if he can get out of the gates and get in front of these guys, he can win races.
Gentlemen, give me your best prediction when it comes to Debrecen, the winner, the top speed rider, when it comes to VMAX, because obviously we get to see that during the broadcast. And, well, something unexpected, Dave.
Oh, dear. I'm going for Madsen. And I'm also going for Madsen on VMAX. I think if he's set up perfectly. Surprise. Well, let's have... Okay, well, you mentioned current form, and Timo Lahti has had maximums in his league racing in his last 2 meetings in different countries. So we'll see Timo Lahti in the top 6 today.
I wouldn't bet against the champ. Mikkelsen, I think he's pretty serious about what he's doing right now. I think he'll be the one that will probably be, focus on winning, and I wouldn't put him past him that he will do it. My surprise probably is going to be Magic Janovsky. I think he might come to the table and surprise everybody.
What about VMAX?
Well, time will tell, won't it? How do we know? This is a track. It's a racer's track. I think. Looking at it, I've not been here before, and I've not seen many races here before, other than what I see on the YouTube and stuff. But all in all, this is a track that I think you have to have the complete package.
So, if you don't want to give me the name of a VMAX racer, give me the VMAX. What is it going to be? And we'll see after the meeting how close you were.
Okay. Andreas Thompson.
Anders Thompson. Do you want to put the number? Like 125 kilometers an hour for Anders Thompson? That's his VMAX?
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah.
125, Dave?
Yeah, 120.
120, a little bit slower than that. Right, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
The event starts at 3 o'clock Central Eastern Standard Time, so make sure you join us if you're watching us from Hungary, Poland, Latvia or Romania. You get to enjoy Speedway European Championship on your local television. Make sure you find the right channel. If you're watching us anywhere else, or you'd like to enjoy, as much as I do, commentary of David and Sam, then you can go ahead and sign up for pay-per-view on SpeedwayEuro.com. SpeedwayEuro.com is the website to go. It's in English. You'll find the instructions there. You can watch it on pretty much any device you can think of, and we'll have English coverage throughout all 4 rounds. And if you're watching us in Denmark and Sweden, I believe you can sign up through your home league website, which is essplay.com, I believe, for Bauhaus Ligen and Speedway Ligen. That was our Facebook and YouTube studio, and we'll see you guys in about 30 minutes when we start the event here in Debrecen for the first time in history in Hungary, in the history of Speedway Euro Championship, or actually any other FIM event. Thank you very much, David Rowe, Sam Ermolenko, and we'll see you guys later.
Sponsorem programu był Tauron, sprzedawca instalacji fotowoltaicznych.